Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Liz. I'm your host. This is Create Crime Time, where I sometimes, most of the time, create a work of art inspired by a crime that I'm telling you. I didn't like that. It's okay, we'll roll with it. How are you today? I hope you guys are enjoying my 25 days of true crime. Today's case. You know, I read a lot about some fucked up people, but oh my goodness. So, today is another interstate case. By interstate, I mean Alaska, New York, Washington, and Vermont. This guy was everywhere. And I like how he stayed, like, on the top of the United States. He is also the most notorious serial killer for Vermont, too. That's linked to Vermont. So, fun fact. I mean, you guys should already know this, by the way. I find serial killers and true crime very interesting. And before I started this channel, I actually looked through a list of the most notorious killers per state. And this guy is the most notorious killer for the state of Vermont because of the crimes he committed in Vermont. Yes. So, if you haven't picked up on it, I am talking about Israel Keyes. I will be sure to insert pictures throughout this video if you want to see what he looks like. Yeah. So, who is Israel Keyes, you ask? Well, he's an American serial killer and an Army veteran. Doesn't that just sum up everything? Yeah. So, he was born on the 7th of January in 1978, and he is child 2 out of 10 to Heidi Keyes and John Jeffrey Keyes. He was born in Cove, Utah, and they were a very large Mormon family. Very large Mormon family. And him and his siblings were homeschooled. So, at the age of 5, the family rejected Mormonism. They were like, nah fam, I'm good. I don't like your morals. I don't like your stuff. So they moved from Richmond, Utah to, Colville, Washington. That's where they moved to. So when they moved there, now mind you, this is a family of 12. A family of 12 moved into a 1-bedroom cabin that had no electricity and no running water. A family of 12. So they were roughing it hardcore. And due to them, rejecting Mormonism, they go and find a new church. Well, this family decided to attend 2 different churches to see which one, they liked. So the first one is called the Ark. A nice normal name. Our second church of worship that they decide to attend is called the Christian Israel Covenant Church. And this church practices white supremacist Christian ideology. Doesn't that just sum it all up in one? Yay for white supremacists. No, I'm just kidding. Don't take that out of context. So, in the future, when they asked Keyes what it was like growing up in this community, he would describe it as a militia-like community that had a hint of being Amish. So super strict, but nothing. No technology, no nada. Living off the land. True Swiss Family Robinson type, but no island. You're in Washington. Fun fact about this family, they befriended the neighboring family of Chevy Keogh. So, if you don't know who Chevy Keogh is, he's actually another serial killer I have on my list for you for the 25 days of true crime. It may or may not have gone up before this, but if it has, I'll link it in a card. Yeah. Yeah. So, the Keys renounced Christianity. Well, Israel Keys renounced Christianity in his early teens, and this is when he would really try to find himself, and eventually he would become super entranced and interested in Satanism. Yeah. Yeah. And for him, as when he was an adult, he lived in the Makah Reservation community of Nia Bay, Washington, which is on the Olympic Peninsula of Washington. So super like non-populous area. So like I said, he is a veteran. He's an Army veteran. He served in the military from 1998 to 2001, and while he was in the military, he was stationed at Fort Hood, Fort Lewis, and in Egypt. So to his comrades in the military, they noticed that he drank heavily. His favorite beverage was wild turkey bourbon, and he would often drink entire bottles in one sitting. Yeah. He was super quiet, and he had a very quiet demeanor. He kept to himself. He didn't really, he's not an outgoing dude. He was just very, subdued and in his own thing. Yeah. His comrades also would notice that he had posters displayed in his barracks, and this was of the band Insane Clown Posse. If you don't know who they are, I'll just kind of put a little image up so you can see. They are considered a hip-hop group, but we'll just leave it at that. If you're an ICP fan, then you know all about their music. If not, look them up. It'll be fun. So in 2007, he started his own construction business, and this was called Keys Construction. And for this business, he would work as a handyman and obviously a contractor and a construction worker. He was a jack of all trades for his own business. I know, he's got such a complex early life and pre-murder. Right? Wrong. Some of these people that do these crimes, I just don't if they have telltale signs of being I'm fucked up, dude, say something. Clearly, obviously sometimes people just like to be to themselves and all this shit, but you add that to his upbringing. They're pseudo Swiss Family Robinson. I'm gonna live in a cabin with 12 people. What the fuck, dude? Just sorry for my mini tangent. Sorry. So the way he decided on his victims is he targeted random people that he had no connection to across the U.S. and he avoided hitting the same place twice. That's the way that he decided to be this is how I'm going to get away with everything. He also planned out his murders, specifically planned out his crimes before committing them. He liked to use places that were completely isolated, like campgrounds and abandoned buildings and stuff like that. Places that people wouldn't go to because it's isolating. Because, us as humans don't like to be in isolated areas. He also, his means of murder is he did not like using guns. He only used them when he needed to, and he preferred to strangle his victims because he wanted to see them suffer. He had one rule when it came to choosing his victims, is that he would never kill a child. And this is believed that he had this rule because of his daughter. And his daughter also comes into play after he's arrested, but we'll get there. So Keys admitted to killing 4 people in the state of Washington, And he also claimed that his first murder was in 1998, and that after that first murder, he took 3 years off because, military, and then he would resume his crime spree. How sweet of him, right? Super sweet. Let's just halt this crime spree so, I can serve our country. So I can be a nice man. And I'm not dogging anybody in the military. I'm not making fun of them. I just... So if you're a veteran and you're watching this, I do not mean to offend you. I come from a family that's heavily riddled with Army vets and Marine vets and just regular war vets. So I get it. I grew up around it. So, Keyes would also confess to one murder in New York, and this murder, and just him in New York in general, he has ties to New York due to the fact that he owns a severely dilapidated cabin that's on 10 acres of land, and this is in the town of Constable, New York. He would also confess to robbery in New York and in Texas, and the FBI would be able to follow up and confirm that he did rob a bank in New York, and this was called the Community Bank in Tupper Lake, New York. This happened in April of 2009. After admitting the robberies in New York and Texas, he admitted to burglarizing and setting a house on fire in Texas. So he's just like all over the place when it comes to crime. A lot of robbery, burglarizing. Yeah, he's just kind of like all over the board. So he never really he had his MO of things that he wanted to do, but he never really he kind of jumped everywhere. He was kind of all over the place, like a little puzzle. He just had to be all over the place. All over. So authorities, this is after he's in custody. Authorities believed that he may have murdered Deborah Feldman in April of 2009 in New Jersey. And she was found buried near Tupper Lake in New York. This is why they believe that she's a possible victim of his, is because of him being in Tupper Lake in April of 2009 and her body being found near Tupper Lake. They believe that she is a possible victim. So he also, after being in custody, he admitted to killing Bill and Lorraine Currier of Essex, Vermont, and he would admit to how he killed them. So Israel broke into their house on the night of June 8th of 2011, and after he broke in, he would tie them up before driving them to an abandoned farmhouse, and this is where he would shoot Bill, sexually assault Lorraine, and then strangle her. Their bodies have never been discovered. No, they've never been found. So, also, 2 years prior to him committing this crime, he stated that he hid a murder kit in Vermont, and this kit is the same one that he would use on the Curriers. After he committed the Currier murders, he would take the contents of his murder kit and then move them to Parrishville, New York, and this is where it remained until after his arrest. So warning about this next part, because this is about his last victim, and this killing it's not just the killing, it's what he did after is, if you have a weak stomach, just stop watching or listening. You can turn down the volume. I'll do a thumbs up after I'm done talking about the brutality. So his last known victim is an 18-year-old Samantha Koenig, and she was a coffee booth attendant in Anchorage, Alaska. So he kidnapped her on the 1st of February in 2012. And after he kidnapped her, he took her debit card and some personal effects, sexually assaulted her, and he would kill her the next day. So after he killed her, he stored her body in a shed. And then he decided, oh hey, I have a family cruise I need to go on. So he went to New Orleans, boarded a cruise ship with his family, and was on it for 2 weeks in the Gulf, the Gulf of Mexico. What a nice man. Let's just leave an 18-year-old's body in a shed, And then, oh, nothing happened. Let's go on a cruise, So nice. So nice. Yeah, so when he returned, he took her body from the shed, applied makeup to her face, used fishing line to sew her eyes open. Sew them open. So it appears that she's alive. Appears. So sweet, right? So sweet. He then posed her body so that she's laying next to a 4-day-old issue of the Anchorage Daily News. He took a picture of her. With this, he would demand ransom. So he demanded $30,000 in a ransom. And after he sent out the ransom for her, he dismembered and disposed of her body. What a sweet guy. And he disposed of her at the Matanuska Lake that's north of Anchorage. So what's really oh yeah. If you had it quieted, you can listen now. So for him, obviously I've already said that he didn't like to strike the same area twice. What he also did so that he would go undetected is to make sure that his cell phone would be off the entirety of the time that he was in an area that wasn't he was known to be living in. And he also paid cash for everything when he was on his murder trips. That's what he called him. So before he committed the murder of the couriers, he literally flew to Chicago and then rented a rental car with cash and drove to Vermont. That way it made it seem like he was in Chicago and they couldn't trace him with the car because he paid cash. That way there's no hardcore trail for him. So it was easier for him to go undetected. What a smart man. So after he would be in custody, and we're getting to that, by the way. We're getting to him getting into custody. So after he would be taken into custody, he would express to police that he admired Ted Bundy and that he shared 2 similarities with him. And he also would speak badly about another serial killer, but we'll after these similarities, we'll discuss. He said that they were similar because their killings were very method-like, because they were very planned out before successfully killing a person, and that they were super possessive of their victims. They were the ones in control, which is true. I mean, Ted Bundy was in control and he had a method to his madness. But what was the severe difference between them is that Ted Bundy only killed beautiful women, and Keyes chose his victims at random with no connection to them. So, I mean, sorry Israel, but there's a giant difference between you two. Sorry if that makes your butt hurt. Yeah. Or any fans of Israel Keyes. I'm sorry if that makes your butt hurt. Sorry. So Keyes would also state that Dennis Rader was a wimp because he went on, during his trial, he would apologize for the crimes that he committed. Now I'm speaking to a dead person basically right now. Israel, if you actually paid attention to his case, then you would realize that him apologizing is him trying to help himself. so, you know, his sentence wouldn't be as severe. It shows that he's apologetic and sympathetic towards the families of the people that he killed. That's why. You know, get into their mindset. So eventually he would be arrested, and this would be on March 13th of 2012. Now this is at a Cotton Patch Cafe in Lufkin, Texas. So he is arrested due to excessive speeding in the area that he was in, and they pulled him over and pulled him out to ask him more questions. Well, the local authorities there that asked him questions were already notified that a car matching the description he was driving is the same one that the suspect for the Samantha Koenig murder was seen driving, and seen, like, this same person was using her debit card, and they weren't just using it in Alaska, they were using it in several different states. So now it's a huge interstate case, because I mean, that's I think it would fall under credit card fraud, but it's just fraudulent charges on an account. Anywho, so after he was arrested on suspicion of murder, he would be extradited back to Alaska. And after he would be extradited, this is when he just confessed to Samantha Koenig's murder, and his trial, he was indicted, and his trial would be set for March of 2013, so literally a year later. While he was incarcerated, Israel cooperated to an extent, and he told authorities that he wanted to be executed within 1 year. And the reason why he did this is because he wanted to avoid like the publicity due to the negative attention of his case, and his daughter would see him. Well, exactly what he didn't want happened. His identity would be leaked by the media, and this is when he stopped cooperating with police. He stopped telling them anything. So May 22nd, 2012, he tries to escape. And he tries to escape during a hearing. This is when he breaks his leg irons, and he jumps over the rail. Well, they're quick to subdue him with a taser. Sorry, Israel. It's not much later. 6 months later, 2nd of December 2012, he is found dead in his cell. Now, this is because he was able to get his hands on a razor blade while he was in jail, being held. And what he did was self-inflicted cuts on his wrist and attempted strangulation. So he attempted suicide by 2 different manners. One was with, and strangulation. Yay. So his suicide note was found underneath his body, and this consisted of an ode to the murders that he committed, but he also offered no clues as to any other victims that he had. In 2012, the FBI released drawings that he had underneath his bed, and one of them was a picture of 11 skulls and a pentagram that was drawn in blood, quite possibly his own blood, probably his own blood. And this was found after his suicide. And there's another drawing that had the phrase "We are one" written at the bottom of it, and people believe that the 11 skulls signifies how many victims he truly has, because there's not a true count of how many victims he has. The police believe it's anywhere between 3 to 11 plus, so that's like what they think. Yeah. But yeah. So that is the true crime case of Israel Keyes. I know it's a very strange one, because yeah, he, I heard of this case when he was arrested, and I couldn't really grasp it, because I was like, huh, because he's definitely one that, like, there's no signs of anything really wrong. I mean, I guess, like, the way he could have been brainwashed while he was at that church after his family moved could have really, like, altered his mindset when it came to, like, his manner of him killing, I guess. I don't know. I have a hard time wrapping my brain around this one, but I hope you guys found this case very insightful. If you didn't know who he is, well, this is Israel Keys, and I'll see you guys in my next video for the 25 Days of True Crime. Bye, guys.